Anji, good morning, everyone. We read the chapter. We read the chapter. I Want Something in a Cage, chapter number 6 of your book, An Alien Hand. In this chapter, we have already read that there is the character, Mr. Purcell. We have read about his physical appearance also. He is the owner of a pet shop. We have read that what kind of a shop he had, and what his nature was and what his routine was when he entered the shop. So, all these things we have already read in part one of the chapter, and we have to start from part two of the chapter where a customer enters Mr. Purcell's shop to buy something and how he behaves and how Mr. Purcell reacts to his behavior is explained in this part of the chapter. So let us start reading. The customer wants something that has wings. उसको कुछ ऐसा चाहिए था pet जिसके wings हों. He spends his 10 years earning on a pair of birds. What he does after buying the birds is the strangest act Mr. Purcell has ever seen. He insists Mr. Purcell to give him a pair of birds, and when he buys that, what he does with that makes Mr. Purcell feel uncomfortable. Now, let us read what he does when he buys the pair of doves. The man's shiny shoes squeaked forward. Squeak hota hai making a sharp sound. Means when you wear new shoes, so they make noise. So uske jo shoes the, they were making a sharp sound. His suit was cheap, ill-fitting, but obviously new. The clothes he wore a suit which was new, but ill-fitting. उसके लिए proper fitting नहीं थी उस सूट की, but obviously new obviously means clearly, but it was clear that he had worn a new suit. He had a shuttling glance and close cropped hair. Shuttling glance होता है constantly looking to and fro. To and fro मतलब इधर उधर देखते रहना, not looking at one thing, but as if to examine. We look here and there continuously. That is called shuttling glance. तो वो जब he entered the shop, he had a shuttling glance and close cropped hair. Close crop means very short hair he had. Ignoring Purcell for the moment, he rolled his gaze around the shadowy shop. Means when he entered the shop, he ignored Mr. Purcell. Rolled his gaze means to turn one's eyes around in circle. Idhar udhar dekhna. He ignored Mr. Purcell when he entered the shop. He looked all around in the shop, and shadowy shop bola gaya hai means gloomy shop. There was an environment of uh, gloom, sadness, disappointment in the shop. When he entered, he ignored Mr. Purcell and he looked around the shop. A nasty morning, volunteered the shopkeeper. Nasty means dirty. When he ignored Mr. Purcell, he started the conversation himself. He clasped both hands across his melon like stomach, means encircled. He kept both his hands around his stomach and smiled importantly as if he was important. I see by the paper we are in for a cold spell. Now he continues the conversation with the customer who ignored Mr. Purcell, and he starts conversation by saying that today it is a very nasty morning and we are in for a cold spell. Cold spell means a period of cold weather. Now the period of cold weather has started. Now what was it you wanted? अब मुझे बताइए, what do you want? When he started his conversation, then he came to the point and asked the customer what he wanted. The man stared closely at Mr. Purcell as though just now aware of his presence. Uh, when Mr. Purcell started talking to him, then that customer noticed Mr. Purcell and he stared at the person, the owner of the shop. He said, I want something in a cage. Then he said that he wanted something in a cage. Something in a cage? Mr. Purcell was a bit confused. When he heard this answer, he got a bit confused because uske to kai pets jo the, they were in the cage. You mean some sort of pet? I mean what I said, snapped the man. Snap means said angrily. So that man became very angry and said that what I said I mean that. Something in a cage, something that is small. So he is not able to convey the idea that what he wants to buy. He just had this thing in his mind. Whatever is in the cage, he wants that. I see, hastened the shopkeeper, not at all certain that he did. Means he was not sure what he understood when the customer said that he wanted something in a cage, but he hurried towards some cages as if he understood his customer and went to get what he wanted. His eyes narrowed gravely and he pushed sorry and he pursed his lips. Uski jo eyes thi means this is the expression of deep thinking, means he was trying to think what his customer was asking for. Now let me think, a white rat perhaps, I have some very nice white rats. तो उसने कहा अच्छा मुझे सोचने दो, क्या चाहते हो तुम इन अ केज, मे बी एक वाइट रैट चाहते हो तुम, मेरे पास बहुत अच्छी वैरायटी है वाइट रैट्स की. नो सेड द मैन, मैन ने कहा नहीं, नॉट रैट्स, समथिंग विद विंग्स, समथिंग दैट फ्लाइज. नाउ the customer says he does not want anything in a cage, but he specifies that he wants something in a cage which has wings and that can fly. A bird, exclaimed Mr. Purcell. Then he understood that the customer wanted a bird. A bird, all right. The customer pointed suddenly to a suspended cage. Suspended means hanging. He actually pointed out towards the cage, which was hung, uh, and it contained two snowy birds. And what were those birds? Doves. When the customer understood that he wanted birds, he pointed towards a cage which was hanging, and that cage contained two doves. How much for those? He asked the owner. 550 came the prompt answer. Suddenly, prompt means a quick answer. The owner said it is 550 and a very reasonable price. Reasonable means very good price, not very expensive, not very cheap. They are a fine pair. They here is referring to the pair of doves. 550, the man was obviously crestfallen, means disappointed. Clearly, he was disappointed. He hesitantly produced a $5 bill. I would like to have these birds, but this is all I have got. Just $5. He just hesitantly means in a hesitant manner. हिचकिचाते हुए उसने जो उसके पास $5 थे वो ऑफर किए मिस्टर पर्सल को, and he said that this is the whole money which I have for these birds. Mentally, Mr. Purcell made a quick calculation which told him that a 50-cent reduction he could still reap a tidy profit. So, when Mr. Purcell heard that the customer is ready to give him $5, he calculated his profit, and he felt that even if he reduces 50 cents from the price, he would still reap means gain. He would still gain a large profit. Tidy means large. He would have a large profit. He smiled magnanimously. Magnanimously means very generously, means as if he is being very kind towards the customer. My dear man, if you want them that badly, you can certainly have them for $5. And very generous way, he tells the customer that if he wanted those birds that badly, then he would negotiate with him, and the customer can buy those birds. I'll take them. He laid his $5 on the counter. उसने कहा हाँ मैं ये buy करूँगा, and he kept the money whatever he had on the counter. Mr. Purcell tottered on tiptoe. Tottered means moved unsteadily. जब हम tips के toes and tips के बल चलते हैं तो we are not stable. हमारी walk जो होती है वो stable नहीं होती. Unhooked the cage. उन्होंने cage को unhook किया and handed it to the customer, और अपने customer को hand over कर दिया. The man cocked his head to one side, means tilted. Cocked means tilted. उसने एक तरफ अपना सिर झुकाया, listening to the constant chittering, the rustling scurry of the shop. वो क्या सुन रहा था? When he tilted his head, he heard the constant chirping and quick hurried walk. मतलब बहुत जल्दी जल्दी जो birds इधर उधर भाग रहे थे, उन सबको सुना means he heard the noise at that shop. That noise he bluttered. Bluttered means uttered abruptly. Abruptly means एकदम से. उसने एकदम से बोला. That noise, doesn't it get you? Doesn't it get you means doesn't it make you feel? I mean, we can say परेशान नहीं करती क्या तुम्हें ये आवाज इतनी जो तुम्हारी शॉप से आती है? Noise. What noise? Mr. Purcell looked surprised. Mr. Purcell, as we have already read that he was happily unaware of that noise. तो उसको कुछ पता ही नहीं चला what the customer was talking about, किस noise की बात कर रहा था. He could hear nothing unusual. उसको कुछ भी unusual नहीं था because he was in habit of listening to those noises at his shop. The customer glared. Glared means looked. I mean, all this caged stuff drives you crazy, doesn't it? मेरा कहने का मतलब है कि ये जो जितने भी तुमने बर्ड्स वगैरह केज में रखे हुए हैं, क्या वो तुम्हें मतलब क्रेजी नहीं करते? इनकी इतनी सारी नॉइस तुम्हें परेशान नहीं करती, डिस्टर्ब नहीं करती? मिस्टर पर्सल ड्रू बैक, पीछे हो गए. ईदर द मैन वॉज इनसेन. इनसेन मीन्स मैड, और ड्रंक, या तो वो पागल था या वो ड्रंक था. He said hastily, yes, yes, certainly, I guess so. Means just to agree with the customer, he said, हाँ हाँ, certainly, मुझे भी ऐसा ही लगता है. Why did he react in that manner? Because he thought either the man was mad or he was drunk. So he just agreed with his customer when he said, yes, that noise makes him crazy. Listen, the staring eyes came closer. उसके पास आके उसने और बोला, how long have you think it took me to make the $5? तुम्हें क्या लगता है कि मुझे ये $5 अर्न करने में कितना टाइम लगा? The merchant wanted to order him out of the shop. Means the merchant here is owner of the shop. The owner of the shop wanted that he should order his customer to get out of his shop. But oddly enough, he couldn't. But वो ऐसा नहीं कर सकता था. He heard himself dutifully asking, why, how long did it take you? उसने अपने आप को बहुत dutifully, because he was a good shopkeeper, so he thought it to be his duty to listen to his customers. So he said, okay, how long did it take you to earn that much of money? The other laughed. Other here is referring to the customer, the strange customer who came to Mr. Purcell's shop. 10 years at hard labor, 10 years to earn $5, 50 cents a year. And he clarifies that it took him 10 years of hard labor to earn $5. And per year, he just earned 50 cents. It was best. Purcell decided to humor him. Humor him is agreeing with someone to keep him happy. Now, here, humor me is used when we agree with the children, when children tell us something and we agree with them. चाहे हमें उनकी बात पसंद आ रही है नहीं आ रही, उनको खुश करने के लिए we say yes. So this phrase is used in that way. So Mr. Purcell उसको खुश करने के लिए he agreed with him. My 10 years, that's certainly a long time now. वो कहते हैं अच्छा 10 years तो डेफिनेटली बहुत लॉन्ग टाइम है. They give you $5, laughed the man, and a cheap suit and tell you not to get caught again. वो तुम्हें, मैन ने हंसते हुए कहा कि वो तुम्हें $5 देते हैं, एक सस्ता सा सूट देते हैं, एंड दे टेल यू कि दोबारा मत पकड़े जाना. Mr. Purcell mopped his sweating brows. Mob means wiped. उसकी बातें सुन के Mr. Purcell को पसीना आ गया and he wiped his forehead. Now here, they is referring to policeman, because he had spent 10 years in jail, and when he was released from jail, this is what he got $5, a cheap suit, and a warning of not getting caught again. Now, about the care and feeding of your doves, I would advise. Now, Mr. Purcell again continues talking to the customer and guides him how to take care of the birds and how to feed, what to feed to the birds. Bah, the man swung around. जो man था वो घूम गया वापस when Mr. Purcell wanted to tell him about the care and feeding of the birds. and stalked abruptly from the store, means went away very stealthily, means चोरी से वहां से निकल गया. Purcell sighed with sudden relief. जब वो कस्टमर शॉप से बाहर गया, Mr. Purcell felt a relief because he was tensed, he was worried. The kind of conversation he had with the customer, तो उसने उस मिस्टर पर्सल को अनकंफर्टेबल कर दिया था. सो व्हेन दैट customer went out of the shop, Mr. Purcell felt relief. He waddled to the window. He waddled to the window and stared out. Waddle means walked with short steps. Means धीरे धीरे करके वो अपनी ही शॉप की विंडो के पास गया एंड उसने विंडो के बाहर देखा. Just outside, his peculiar customer had halted. Peculiar means strange. Halted means stopped. उसकी शॉप के बाहर ही वो कस्टमर रुक गया था. He was holding the cage shoulder high, staring at his purchase. वो अपने उसने शोल्डर हाई मतलब अपने कंधों से ऊपर, उसने पिंजरे को कंधे से ऊपर रखा और वो जो उसने खरीदा था, बाय किया था, उसको देख रहा था. Then, opening the cage, he reached inside and drew out one of the doves. Then he opened the cage and took out one of the doves from the cage. He tossed it into the air. Tossed it means threw up in the air. So उसने dove को cage से निकाला और उसको air में toss कर दिया. He drew out the second and tossed it after the first. And then he took out another dove and again tossed it into the air. They rose like wind-blown balls of fluff and were lost in the smoky gray of the wintry city. और वो दोनों birds ऐसे हवा में फ्लाई किए जैसे कि कोई बहुत विंड ब्लोन बॉल्स मीन्स हल्की सी जो फेदरी स्टफ होता है वो हवा में उड़ता है, वैसे ही both the doves then they were tossed in the air. They just lost in the smoky gray of the wintry city, means frosty weather था तो उसमें गायब हो गए. For an instant the liberators silent and lifted gaze watch after them. For an instant means for a moment. The liberators means the one who liberated, means freed the birds. उसकी शांत और उठी हुई नजर उन birds को fly करते हुए देख रही थी. Means for some time his gaze followed the flying birds. Then he dropped the cage. He shoved both his hands deep in his trouser pockets, hunched down his head, and shuffled away. Means he shoved both of his hands deep in his pocket, means he pushed both of his hands in his pockets. He hunched down means bent down his head, and he moved with a dragging motion away. और वो धीरे धीरे चला गया वहां से. Means when he freed the birds, he just kept his both hands in his pockets, kept his head, bent his head down, and moved slowly from that place. The merchant's brow was perked with perplexity, means contracted with confusion. Means the owner had a confusing expression on his face, that what that person did so desperately had the man desired the doves that he had let him have them at a reduced price. मतलब the owner Mr. Purcell thinks that कितनी बुरी तरह से, desperately means badly, how badly that man desired to buy those doves, and when he gave the doves to the customer at the loss of 50 cents, he just freed the birds, and immediately he had turned them lose means आजाद कर दिया, और उसने उन बर्ड्स को बाय करते ही आजाद कर दिया. Now why Mr. Purcell muttered. Mutter means say something in a very low voice. अपने आप से बातें करते हुए उसने कहा, did he do that? Now why Mr. Purcell muttered, did he do that? He here is referring to the customer. Mr. Purcell is talking to himself. अपने आप से बातें करते हुए वो कह रहा है कि अब उसने ऐसा क्यों किया. He reduced the price for that customer. That customer wanted the birds so badly. At a loss of 50 cents, he sold the birds to the customer, and when he bought them, he just freed them. He felt vaguely insulted. Vaguely means not clearly. So clearly तो customer ने उसकी insult नहीं की, but Mr. Purcell himself felt insulted when he saw this act of his customer. When he saw that the customer has freed the birds, he felt insulted. So I hope this chapter is clear to you.